interject, or as this what this world says sometimes, cause an intervention into your life and cause that to change. But then there's some of you that your life is stable, your life is doing well, but God has called the well to help those that aren't doing so well. That's what this gospel's all about. That when we go from weak to strong, we're to help those that are weak. And so this morning, some of you know people that are in these situations. It might not happen today, might not happen tomorrow, might not happen next week, next year, I don't know. But God's going to speak into your heart, and you're going to hear that cry for help. And he's going to call you alongside them to help them because the weight they carry is too much. Watch this. It's called The Weight I Carry.
I'm in debt. I have 2 car payments, 4 years into a 30-year mortgage, balances on a couple credit cards, plus college for 3 kids on the horizon. 0 savings. I work long hours at a job that I hate. And despite all that, all I get is stress about how I can make more money. I take 4 pills at night for my back pain. Some days, getting up seems like too much. I struggle with dyslexia. I have high cholesterol. I overeat a little too often. I'm trying to get in shape. But it's never, I mean never enough. My dad died 5 years ago from cancer. I should have seen him more before he passed. Man, I miss him so much. Everyone expects me to be over it, but it's something that I still deal with daily. I haven't taken my wife on a date in 4 months. I practically forgot our anniversary. My kids need me when I get home, but it's late. I want to sleep. I spend my weekends at their functions, as if that's enough. All this, and I still resent my family, because I have no time just for me. I can be amazingly selfish. I'm often angry, seemingly for no reason. I struggle with lustful thoughts, none of which my wife understands. Nor do I, for that matter. I'm good at some things, I'm great at nothing. I had dreams for my work and my family, and I abandoned them long ago. I think I'm a realist, and I come off as a pessimist. I feel restless knowing something is missing. I have too many burdens. They're suffocating. And this is the weight I carry.
The reality is this, there's probably not one single person that is actually carrying every single thing he said, but there's a whole lot of people carrying a lot of what he said. I wasn't expecting to get this emotional, but Jesus is trying to get a point across. They could be sitting next to you. Do you hear them? Do you hear their cry? It ain't all about pastor spoon-feeding you on a Sunday morning so you can go home and say, oh, I was fed today. I guess I'll go again next Sunday, or I might even come tonight. I don't pull punches with you people because this is real life. We got a real situation, and there are real people dying, and we're on our way to heaven. And if we don't get serious about it, we all just wasting our time. So don't come to me for cuddly messages. I'm going to give you the truth because the truth is going to get you to heaven, and it's going to cause you to reach out and get someone else to heaven too. Well, I want him to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Well, he ain't going to say that because your butt sat in a chair in a church every Sunday. Do you hear them? They're your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, your co-workers. They are carrying some weight, and we've got the answer. We've been called to come into their lives and cause an intervention because we've got Jesus. We've got the answer. We've got the promise. We've got the life vest to help them burn those ships, and we can carry them into the safety. To lead them out of a situation, you first have to enter their situation. Can I tell you, that's where we stop right there. I don't want to get involved in all that. I don't want to hear all that. I don't want to listen to all that. I don't want to have to get into the pit with them. I don't want to have to get into the mud with them. But if you want to get out, if you want them to get out, you're going to have to get in and lead them out. But that's where we stop paying the price. I'll pray for them. I'll pray that God gives them a spirit to come to church one Sunday. Get up 15 minutes early, stop by their house and pick them up. Oh, we're so quick to just give all these other reasons of why we can't, why we shouldn't. Oh, if I was to ask for a show of hands this morning to say how many of you had somebody that interjected themselves into your life and that's the reason you're changed, a bunch of us would raise those hands today. Jesus does it himself sometimes, but many times he uses us. We are the conduit. We are the vessels. We are the messengers of his word and his promise to a lost and dying world. If we don't do something, they will die. Oh, God will send somebody by. No, he sent you. You were the somebody. He doesn't always have a plan B. You are the plan. Do we hear? Are we willing to inject ourselves into their lives? You see, in the video then that King and Country made, looks back in the pirate times, and he's on shore, and the ship is out there. And he gets onto the boat. He rows the boat out there. Oh, there's just so many analogies. It took a lot of work to row that boat. That is not fun. He didn't get in one with a 200 horsepower Evinrude. Can I tell you, it's work to interject yourself in other people's lives. Because you know, one of the things is, they're going to isolate themselves. They're out in the middle of the lake, middle of the ocean. They're trying to get away from everybody because everybody heaps shame and guilt and condemnation on them. So they're trying to get as far away as they can. And to get there, sometimes it takes some effort on our part. He gets in the boat and he rows out there. And then he climbs on board the ship. And then once he gets on there, he confronts the person, lights the fuse, and they both jump off. Who was him? It was Luke. He had to go out. He had to leave the tour. He had to leave the concert stage and go. He had to get onto the ship. What was the ship? His home, his wife, his family. He had to get on board. What does that mean? When he got on board, he had to help with the upkeep of that ship till he got off it. He had to take her to rehab. He had to watch the kids. He had to pray. He got involved in the life, in the home life that he was away from. And then he lit the fuse. He flushed the pills. You see, it all comes down to that four-letter word we celebrated Friday. Love. If we love them, we will help them. If we love them, we will sacrifice. When we love somebody, it's like this song says, there's no river wide enough. There's no mountain high enough to keep me away. Watch.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby,
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough.
No, no.
Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe.
You remember the day
Yeah.
our praise team. There's no wall he won't tear down. There's no shadow he won't light up. Always here for you. Jesus, will you go to them? What? I can't do that. Oh, we preach it and we sing about, oh, Jesus will do everything to get to us. But when he asks us to go do something to get to them, all of a sudden, what? I can't get, my recliner's calling me. Used to, you had an excuse. Well, my show's on. It's only on Monday nights. But the devil invented the DVR. And now you're without excuse. Because you can just DVR it, baby. You can watch it later. You see how quick we are to say, oh, it's so exciting that Jesus, oh, we sing that chorus. I love that song. Well, I can't even think of what the name of that. What is the name of that song, Jason? Reckless love, yeah. All the things that can't stop Jesus from getting to us. But look at the things that will stop us from getting to the people he's calling us to. To help them burn their ships, to help them right their lives and get started once again. There shouldn't be anything that gets in your way when he calls you to intervene into somebody's life. In that video of King and Country's Burn the Ships, another thing Pastor Landon brought out to me, because when I made that video and put the words to it, I was so involved in the words I didn't watch all the little intricacies. And in our discussions together, he said, did you notice Luke, the man that rowed out there, his boat got blowed up too? I said, wow, that's a good point. I thought, why? You know, it really don't make a lot of sense. Why burn up my boat? I'll get you out. I'll go out there. I'm going to get on your boat. I'm going to rescue you. And we're going to get in my boat, and we're going to go back to land, and everything's going to be cool. Why burn out mine? That doesn't make any sense. Let's go back to that story of Cortez. You see, some of the soldiers were ready to retreat. They were ready to get out of there. They wanted to go back to the ships because the ships represented a lot of things to them. The ships represented an escape and a way out. The ship represented safety. It represented food. It represented shelter. It was all their equipment, their armor, all the things to sustain life. And so because of this, there were many warriors and soldiers that wanted to go back to the ships. So Cortez gave the order to burn the ships. Every single one of them. You see, here's the thing. There were soldiers, there were warriors among that army. They didn't have no desire to go back to them ships. They were gung-ho. They were in it to win it. They said, come on, let's go. We can do this. They were Joshua and Caleb. We can take the promised land. I don't care if there's giants there. We got this. I don't have a desire to go back to my ships. That's not something I'm longing for. I'm not looking for an excuse to do that. But they lost their ships too. The good people lost their ships as well as the bad people lost their ships. Why? What was wrong with their ships? Why couldn't they keep their ships? They didn't have a problem with their ships. There wasn't nothing wrong with their ships. There's nothing wrong with your ship when God calls you to go help somebody. But don't be surprised if on the way there or after you get there, he tells you to burn your ships too. Why? Because the good warriors, the good soldiers who had no desire to go back, their ships would become the temptation for the ones that had lost theirs. You see, if I've lost my ship, all my safety net, all my security is gone, but you still got yours, you become my enabler. You become my source. All of a sudden everything changes. It's almost like when Paul describes the fact that are all things lawful? Yes. But are all things expedient? No. There's a lot of things in my life I know I could do and I don't have guilt about them, but I do not do them for the sake of those that are watching me. Your liberty. Sort of like in the United States. You have liberty to speak and say and do a lot of things, but it stops at the front door of your neighbor. You can't infringe that onto theirs. And in Christianity, sometimes we think, because I don't feel guilt about this, I can do this. What if we all of a sudden were drawn out of our life and got God's perspective, and we seen everybody that was watching us do things that is harmful for their life because they're watching us do it, and they're saying, well, if they do it, why can't I do it? Everybody's ships was gone. They were all leveled out. They were all equal. I would hate to say that my liberty caused someone else to go to hell. There ain't nothing in this world, folks, worth my having the consent or non-guilt of doing in this life. There's nothing worth it if it might cause someone else to go to hell. I'm not going to use my liberty to say, well, God didn't condemn me of it. God doesn't give me guilt of it. Therefore, I can do it. But that causes my brother or sister to die and go to hell. There ain't nothing worth it. This is a temporary life. There ain't nothing here that compares to heaven. Can't you just wait a little while? So everybody's boats were destroyed. Even the rescuer's boat was destroyed. Luke could have looked at that bottle of pills, which I know a lot of us do these kinds of things. And I'm not saying whether you're right or wrong. They give you a prescription. It's got 30 pills, 15 way into it. You're through. You're better. But it's a pain pill. And pain pills are expensive. So we keep them around so someone else might get hurt, back pain, leg pain issue, and they can use that. What Luke realized was those pills could have been used later on if he had a health issue or she had a health issue. But as long as the pills were there, it was a temptation he could handle, but she couldn't. So no matter the cost, no matter the common sense of it, her life is at stake. Flush the pills. Burn my boat, Jesus, if that's what it takes to get them to heaven. Luke couldn't keep the pills even though he might need them one day, because even though he didn't have a problem, they would be a problem for her. Most of the time, helping someone burn their ships is going to force you to burn some of your own. And that's why we stop. That's why we don't want to do it. It's okay as long as the cost is on someone else. As long as the cost is out there being paid by someone else. You know, I've said this before. You've probably heard me say it. As long as I'm a preacher, whenever the Lord or the Holy Spirit brings it back to my mind, I'm going to mention it again. I have prayed this prayer, and I know you have. Lord, they're lost and undone. They need you as their Lord and Savior. Lord, whatever it takes. Lord, whatever it takes to get them to acknowledge you as Lord and Savior. And in our mind, we might not say it, and you might. But in our mind, we're thinking worst case scenarios. Lord, if they have to go to jail, that's okay if that gets them to Jesus. Lord, if they have to get so sick they almost die, that's okay if it gets them to Jesus. Lord, if relationships have to be broken up, that's okay if it gets them to Jesus. Whatever it takes. Until Jesus comes to us and said, I am so glad. This is the same thing as somebody rolling up their sleeves getting ready for a fight. When Pastor takes that. That's all well and good till Jesus comes. I am so glad you prayed that prayer. That whatever it takes. Because son, daughter, guess what? You headed to jail. No, you did. Miscommunication. I meant them. If they have to go to jail, that's okay. No, it's going to take you going to jail to get them right. You're going to get so sick, you almost die, so they get right. You're going to suffer financial hardship. So you see, we have to be willing to burn our ships. Until we get to that point that we're willing to suffer for them, don't expect God to just jump in and take care of everything for you. Sometimes helping someone else burn their ships means our ships are going to get burnt too. Are you willing to burn some of your ships to help someone? 2 examples real quick. They're small. But if we can't handle the small ones, how can we expect to handle the big ones? In the Garden of Gethsemane. And this is really crazy if you think about it. because it's like one of the only times I think this has ever happened. Jesus went to men, the ones he counted the most dear to him, his support team, his co-leaders, his partners. Said, man, I need you really bad. I'm fixing to have to go over here and pray. And it's almost caused me to feel like I'm about to die. It is so, I'm agonizing almost to death. I need you to pray with me. I can't handle this by myself. I need you to pray with me. Jesus was crying for help. He goes over there and he begins to pray, and he comes back and they're sleeping. But Pastor, it's late at night. Oh, so that means if you call me at 2 o'clock in the morning with a need, and while you're telling me your need, you hear, it's late at night, what do you expect? I had a rough day too. I'm tired. I got to get my beauty rest. And somebody said, amen, don't you dare. Jesus was crying out for help. I need you guys. I need your support. This is a big battle. 3 times. Every time they was asleep. Just to pray. What was their cost? The only cost that they had to pay to help the one they loved, the one they cared for, the one they so adored and followed, was a little bit of sleep. Spend a little bit of time in prayer. Give them a little bit of a support. I don't know because the Bible don't say this, but I can almost guarantee you, all we do is we see picture Jesus at that rock. It wasn't happening like that. Showed a video here a while back that when it talks about him, that he was probably face to the ground, weak, tired. The Bible talks about the sweating of the drops of blood, that his face was probably matted, his hair was probably matted with sweat and blood and dirt. But I wonder how many times in that moment, when he needed help so bad, he looked to the church. He looked to the Christians. And they're snoring. Do you know some of them out there are in agony too? And they see you at work. Oh, I went to church. It was a great service. They need your help and they're crying for help. But we don't hear them. And if we do, we don't want to get woke back up. We want to stay in our comfort and our peace and our sleep. That's too much of a cost to pay. I don't want to have to burn my ship to help you. I'll gladly set fire to yours. What about the Good Samaritan? Oh, here's a man lying in the road, unconscious. He's unconscious. He's bleeding. He's naked. He's been robbed. And all the religious people, yeah, bless you, brother. Be made whole and dressed and food. I ain't going to get involved. I ain't going to burn my ships. I ain't going to pay the price till the Good Samaritan comes along and begins to help. And see, here's the thing. The Good Samaritan had to burn some ships to help that guy. He was on a journey. He had a destination. He was supposed to be somewhere at a certain time. But all of a sudden, he stopped and burnt that ship and said, there's something more important here, more at stake than my meeting, my business transaction, my fellowship over here. This person is in need. I'll burn that ship of deadlines and time schedules. On the way to church, they got a flat tire. Oh, God sends somebody to help them fix that. He did. You. As pastor, one Sunday morning, I'd only been pastor for about 2 years. I was on the way to church on a muddy road before they put the oil top on it. Some people had a flat. Oh, that thought was, serious God, mud. I'm about to preach in 45 minutes. I don't have time, but I had to stop. You know, sometimes it ain't even about you having to help. It's about you just being willing to do it. I stopped, got out, Hey, can I help you? Oh, no, that's okay. We got it covered. It's okay. We almost got it done, and some of our friends are coming to help us. We got it covered. But are you even willing to stop? To burn your ships? You see, it cost the Good Samaritan time. It cost him money as well, because he paid for this guy. Sometimes when you burn someone else's ships, they're going to be in such financial hardship, you're going to have to help invest sometimes financially. Not only that, it caused hardship because the Samaritan had a donkey to ride on or camel or something, and he had to put that man on it, so now he had to walk. It caused him hardship. We want to change the world, but I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to have that cost. I don't want my ships to be burned. Sometimes you have to sacrifice your boat and get in the water and swim with them back to shore. And that's exactly what they did in that video. You see, we have the opportunity to change their stories. Watch this real quick. Sometimes it's just small ways that we're able to help dramatically change somebody's story, to help them get into a new part of life. Luke could have passed that on to a lot of different people. He could have said, man, I'm so busy on this concert tour. I can't, these people have paid tickets. I can't be part of this. I need my family to step up and help. And the doctors, we're going to do more of this. And we're going to do look all the, but he stopped everything till she was okay. But then other times it might be a simple invitation. It might be a simple allowing them to call and talk to you on the phone. But we can change your story if we're willing to burn some of our ships too. Here's the thing. Finally, we must lead the way with confidence and a boldness. The end of the video of Burn the Ships, if you haven't seen it, after they swim to shore, he gets on the bank, he just starts walking, and he never turns and looks back or anything. But the person that was rescued did. Paused a second and looked back. You see, here's the thing. Those that have burned their ships to start a new life, get going once again, they have an uncertain future. They have an unknown future. It's really a scary place to be in, because in a strange way, the hurt, the abuse, the addiction, the situation they were in almost became comfortable because they'd been in it for so long. And now all of a sudden, even though they know change is coming, sometimes that change can be a scary thing. And so there's that tendency to look back for just a moment. They're frightened, they're nervous, they're doubting, they're weak. They're not the brave soldier they will one day be. They haven't made it that far yet. We can't expect that out of them yet. So Luke had to be there to give his wife support till she had the strength to stand on her own, till she could fight her own battles, till she could defeat her own enemies, and finally receive the treasures of this new life, this new experience. You see, until these people get a few steps away from their old life and they begin to win a few little skirmishes, that's what we call small little infractions, just a little skirmish here and a little skirmish there. It's not really nothing to take us out. But when you have been beaten down, a skirmish is a victory that you've never experienced before, and it's dramatic, and all of a sudden it gives us courage to step into the next battle and gain some confidence. But until then, they need your guidance, your comfort, your encouragement. It's not enough to burn their ship and walk away. You're just putting them in a position to get in a ship that's even worse than you just left. So we have to lead them. We have to guide them. We have to be confident in taking them to this new land, this new country, the promised land, so to speak. I said a while ago, to lead them out of a situation, you have to enter into that situation. You have to get down into the pit with them, down and dirty with them, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. It's where they're going to learn to trust you, be willing to follow you into that next step. In Galatians 6:2, it says that we are to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. How many know laws are supposed to be obeyed? A law is no good if it's not obeyed. It's a spiritual law, a law of Christ, that we reach out and help each other carry these burdens, help each other in these ways. This should be the reason we get involved in the first place. It's not our boat that has to be burned. Some people say sometimes, not my circus, not my monkeys. Every pastor says that sometimes. God, ain't my circus, ain't my monkeys. Moses said that to the children of Israel. Do you know one time God literally turned them all over to Moses and said, here, you take them. Moses had to remind God, hey, these are your kids. I think that's what he did. He said, hey, God, don't pass the buck to me. These are your kids. But we have to bear. They both had to swim to shore. David and Goliath, that day, we talk about it today, about that defeat. It wasn't his battle to fight. He wasn't even supposed to be there. But David knew the only solution was a spiritual one, and he was the only one that there was spiritual and trusted God. These people, that's not your burden, that's not your problem, that's not your battle, it's not your circus, not your monkeys, but the law of Christ says you help him bear that because you're the only one in their circle of friends that knows the spiritual solution to this spiritual warfare they're fighting. Are you someone's spiritual solution this morning? Are you able to trust God to defeat the enemy that's attacking your friends, your family, your neighbors? Ezekiel 22:30, and I'm about to close. This is what the scripture says. It says that they had the wall, and there was a gap in the wall, and he said, I looked for someone among them. This is a hard verse, people. Because you know, in this instance where we're drawing this from is in reference to the church, God's people. I pray God never looks down at this church and said, there's a gap over here. There's people dying. There's people drowning. There are people hurting. And I looked among them for someone who would build up that wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, on behalf of those people, so I would not have to destroy it. But I found no one. No one. And so if no one was found, then it's destroyed. Somebody to stand in the gap. To stand in the gap for someone means to take their place, to make personal sacrifices, to protect the weak, defeat the enemy, and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. I'm going to close with this song, and then I'll see how the Lord leads me after this song. This song could be just a personal song between two people and the relationship they have, that they're going to stand there and be there for them no matter what comes. This morning, though, this is the way I want you to take it. There's two different ways that I believe God is speaking, and He'll use this song to speak to you through, and that's this. One is, if you're the person that God is calling, that I pray that somewhere during this service, He's given a lot of you that are strong and in a position to help people. He's put a name already into your heart and into your mind, that somebody that came and said, you know what, man, this fits them. They need somebody to help them. And it may not come today or tomorrow or even for a while, but that God's going to give you a name. And then in this song, the words that it says, that you'll take them to heart and you'll apply this to your life in that situation dealing with them. But then maybe you're here this morning and you're the one that's actually struggling. You're the one crying out for help. And you're looking for someone else to have the match to burn your ships and come along and swim with you and get you on the right road to where you need to be. I'm praying that somebody will maybe stand up for you today. But there is one that if you were here in this service today and hearing this message, there is one you can always depend on. And He's here right now. And these words could be His words to you. Listen to this by Rascal Flatts, and then I'll see where the Lord takes us from here.
It's like a storm that cuts a path, that breaks your will. It feels like that. You think you're lost, but you're not lost on your own. You're not alone. I will stand by, and I will help you through. When you've done all you can do and you can't go, I will dry your eyes, and I will fight your fight. I will hold you tight, and I won't let go. It hurts my heart to see you cry. Well, I know it's dark, this part of life. Oh, but it finds us all. We're too small to stop the rain. Oh, but when it rains, I will stand.
need everybody to stand. Keep the lights just the way they are. The dilemma every pastor faces on Sunday mornings. Because you have a divided house. What do you mean, Pastor, a divided house? Aren't we all here for Jesus? Well, I'd like to assume that, but the divided house is this. You have those that will do anything, go anywhere, be a part of anything to see God's will be performed, and then there's those that watching the clock and can't wait to get out. But you want them to come back next Sunday, so what do? You say a quick prayer, let them stay where they are so they keep them happy so they'll come back next Sunday. But you know what? I can't live like that all the time. I feel so strongly that there's somebody here that God's been speaking to your heart, and you need the confidence of what that song says right there. That there's a God that loves you enough that he's going to hold you and take care of you and be there for you. I feel like there's some people here that God's also speaking that I'm calling you to be that one that says these words to somebody. And so I'm going to have them play it again. I'm not going to invite anybody. But if God's speaking to your heart, sometimes we say, well, I don't know about that going to the front, going to the altar. Isn't nothing crazy going to happen up here? We're fine with going to the altar when we need Jesus for salvation. But we're scared to go when we need Jesus because our heart is breaking, because we're struggling with things in life we can't handle. The same Jesus that loved you enough to save you is waiting for you to come forward so he can touch you and heal you and minister to you right now, whether it's a broken heart, a broken mind, a broken life. So guys, start that back up. And when this is over, if there's people up here and I'm praying with some people, I'm going to let Pastor Landon come up and dismiss you in prayer. But we ain't playing church today. I just had to burn a ship. The ship of doing everything the way we always do to make the crowd, the majority, happy. The majority I'm making happy today is my Heavenly Father. Let this song speak to your heart. If it's touching you, find your way up here. Stand, kneel. He wants to be here for you today.